Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Dustin McCumber, and welcome to Megaport Live Tech Drop-ins for March 15th. This is just an informal session that we put together, brought to you by your solutions architecture team from Megaport. Here you see on the screen is my personal contact information. Feel free to shoot me an email. It's got my LinkedIn address there as well. Please shoot me an invitation. Hopefully we can carry on discussions after this and see how we can create some synergies together going forward. I come to you from Manitou Springs, Colorado, where you have almost 3 feet of snow. So don't know if anybody else is out there in the same snowstorm, but if so, I hope everything's well. What I'm going to share with you today is a quick walkthrough for what we call global WAN as a service, and how to connect long haul type connections from one country to another or across vast masses of distance, and how you can do so in real time and basically keep it for as long as you need it. With month to month, 1-year term, 2-year term, 3-year term, etc. But what I want you to take away is how easy it is to stand up a connection like that. And we'll go through a couple different use cases here. We do have ability for you to add some questions, whether it's about what I'm presenting or walking through, or about Megaport in general, or even if it's a question just to see if we can help you in a certain manner or not. Feel free to drop all those into the Q&A function of what you see in the chat here. All right, without further ado, I'm just going to show you real quick. In the end, what really I'm going to build is a Megaport that's in New York City, and then a Megaport in Amsterdam, and then how to connect the two with a long haul virtual cross connect. Okay, but first, a little bit about Megaport and our network. These data centers, you see, they're third-party data centers. So New York, I chose Digital Realty, and then in Amsterdam, a global switch. So Megaport partners with more than 100 different data center operators around the world, and that gets us access into more than 850 data centers. So many of our customers have a presence in those facilities, or can get a private line type of connection into there to meet the Megaport network. Once you are on our network, you're then able to connect to different types of services in different locations. So we'll talk more about that as we go on. But here's kind of an instance that is pretty popular. So let's say you have a point of presence directly within one of these data centers. So you take down space and power from, let's say, Digital Realty, and you populate network equipment within a cabinet or a cage there. Okay. And then you need access to the other side, whether the other side goes to a similar setup, or if it goes to a, like I show here, let's say a private network to your headquarters or your data center, or another location outside of that physical facility. Okay, in this situation, using Megaports, they're layer 2 ports, the virtual cross connect connecting the two is a layer 2 point-to-point connection that is pinned up across the Megaport backbone. The Megaport backbone is a global network based on MPLS, so there's inherent protection switching in that backbone. Okay, I'm going to pivot away from this diagram and jump right into the Megaport portal here, and then we'll get to building these services. Okay. So first off, within the portal, you see all these black dots and the black Megaport type icons. That is a data center where Megaport has a point of presence, and it'll, as I hover over, it tells me what type of services I can build from that data center. So first, I chose that New York City Digital Realty NYC1. So I want to try to navigate to that facility. Okay. And should be 60 Hudson, I believe. So I probably should put that in here. And I'll check on questions here in chat every so often. Okay, so as I hover over, you can see the different addresses. So this one is an Evoke Xterra facility. Then we got Telehouse, And I can click and expand on some of the others. So there's Equinix NY9, Digital Realty NYC2, and I know that NYC1 should be right around here. There we go, CoreSite NY1. I know I was going to use Digital Realty, but let's go ahead and I'll just do CoreSite for ease of timing. And then it's going to take me to the list of all the different facilities that I have capabilities here. So that CoreSite NY1, I'm just going to click next. Then I'm going to click my port speed. So I do have capabilities in this data center for a 1 gig port, a 10 gig port, or a 100 gig. Okay, I'll just choose a 10 gig port. I'm not going to go kind of overboard on the bandwidth of the VXC, but I'm simply going to give it a name. Let's see, thank God it's Friday, NYC port. Now I can certainly make it private where it's not going to show on the Megaport marketplace, but if I want other Megaport customers to be able to connect and see your port, to be able to connect to it, you can certainly do public and then set up a profile for the marketplace. And you see here, for the subscription for that port, I can do a 1 month, 12 month, or all the way up to 36 months, and the pricing reflects accordingly. Now, in the data centers where I have the capability with Megaport for diverse options, I can actually have it create a diverse pair of ports where it would put one port in a red availability zone and another port in a blue availability zone. I'm not going to do that right here because I'd like to show you a little bit more capability here after I stand up this first connection. I also have the ability to lag ports together. I hit next and I'm just going to review my summary, make sure that it's set up the way I like before I add a port. Okay. So notice it kind of has put that port over here in what I would call a shopping cart. Okay. Now going back to my diagram, my second one I was going to build in global switch over in Amsterdam. Oh, it would help if I did the full screen here so y'all can see it better. Okay, let's see if there's any questions in Q&A. I don't see any there yet. Feel free, pop in a question as you desire. Switch Amsterdam. All right, so that took me right to there. Global switch, you see I have capabilities to build ports in this facility. I click there and I can go create a port on this side. Of course, I need to create these access services before I can connect the two of them together. And I'm going to do similar on this side, create my port speed of 10 gig and my port name, TGIF AMS1. I'm going to go 1 month just because of demonstration purposes here. Next, my summary, add a port. Okay. Pretty simple from that respect, right? All right. So you can see on the globe here, the account that I am in, I don't have really any services except for one down in Texas that's built. So you don't see any of the lines or any of the ports, but you see you start turning blue. That means I have a service built in that location. So if I kind of drill down, you can see that I now found my port in New York City, TGIF NYC. And now from here, I can build connections. Now, when I build a VXC, I can say from that port, I want to go to any of these types of destinations. Okay, cloud being a public cloud service. Private VXC is what I'm going to use to connect a Megaport access service to another. So like another Megaport cloud router, Megaport virtual edge, or another port, which is what I'm going to be doing here. I also can add internet services off that port. I can connect to a Megaport IX or other partners throughout the exchange or the Megaport marketplace. So again, I'm going to go private VXC so I can connect these ports together, and then I can get from my point of presence in New York City over to my point of presence over in Amsterdam. So what it does is it shows me all the ports that I have configured here. My source is going to be my TGIF New York City port. I'm going to connect it directly to that Amsterdam port and click on next. And give it a friendly name for that VXC. New York City to Amsterdam. VXC. Now, I'm going to start with 500 megs, okay, just because I want to show you something pretty interesting here in a bit that is definitely a benefit of a service between two different access points. If I build a 500 meg VXC, because I might, have a slow roll of migrating services over to it, and I might not need a full bandwidth up to the port speed of a 10 gig. So I'm going to stand that up as 500 megs of available bandwidth. I can have it bring that VXC up either in a shut state or an enabled state. This is a great feature for testing. So once you deploy a service and you overlay your routing protocol on top and want to make sure that the failover is working, you can come back in the portal, edit the VXC, and shut that service down, acts as a failure in that connection, and make sure that your failover works appropriately. Here you can identify what VLAN tag you want to have on that VXC, and if it's available, it'll turn green. Or I can leave it blank and let Megaport auto assign that, or I can simply even untag that service and dedicate that entire connection just to one service. Okay, I'm going to do no subscription on that VXC, so it shows me my price to get from New York City to Amsterdam at 500 megs. I review my summary and add a VXC. Now I have 3 items over here in my cart with pricing and whatnot. I'm going to go ahead and click order and actually deploy those services across our network. So kind of keep in mind that, especially when we're talking long haul services and these connections across the pond, so to speak, typically you all might be used to ordering like a wavelength type service. Okay, typically that procurement model is such where you identify the A and the Z locations and the bandwidth of that connection, and usually a wave would be more port speed type bandwidth levels, and an order goes in and goes through a design cycle, then a provisioning cycle, and an activation cycle and whatnot, and sometimes that might be a month, couple months to get that service. Here you see within the portal, that globe, now it's got that connection of that VXC. I can hover over that and it shows my TGIF NYC to Amsterdam VXC. It's in a deployable state, okay? But if I go over here to my port in New York City and I click on that, you can see that it's in a deployable state. Now, it already has the service identifier here. But one thing that's really cool too is, let's say, because from here in that one use case that I showed you back on the diagram of connecting over to your cabinet, that requires a cross connect from the data center operator to get from the Megaport environment over to your cabinet. Okay. To do that, you need to provide them with LOA. You already have a arrangement with that data center operator in this instance because you've taken down space and power. So you could click on the LOA and this tells them where to deliver that cross connect to and from. Okay. So automatic LOAs, right? That was pretty quick. So now I have that VXC stood up, and let's say now after some time, right? Remember I did it at 500 megs, and now I want to increase the bandwidth of that because now I have more production environment going across there, and I realized I need more bandwidth. I can bump up that bandwidth in real time by clicking and saving that connection. I'm going to confirm the increase in that cost a bit. So the service went up from $700 to $1,300. And there we go. Within a couple minutes, it's going to have that software rate limiter upgraded from 500 megs to a gig. Here you can see what VLANs were assigned by Megaport for that connection. Okay. Let's see. I don't see any open questions in the queue. Fire away as you got them. Okay. So I'm pretty much done with building out this piece here, right? So now, Dustin, what's that's great for a use case where I have a point of presence in those facilities or whatnot, but let's talk about some of those other destinations, right? So here is a good example of a site to cloud type of a service where you might be trying to get from your cabinet or your cage in that facility to a public cloud service, or from your network or your data center into a cloud service. Okay. Well, same thing is I can come back here, drill down to my port and do a connection. And by the way, a port can handle up to 100 VXCs. A Megaport cloud router is 25. Okay, so plenty of room for scalability there. So I'm on my port there in New York City. I can now connect to a cloud environment. Okay, so AWS, first I need to go grab my AWS account number. And I chose the wrong one. There it is. Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions thus far. Here, I'm going to grab that AWS account number and I'm going to go back to the portal and be ready to populate it. We do support both hosted VIP and hosted connections with AWS. I'm going to choose hosted VIP for due to timing, and chose USA, and I'm going to choose this core site NY1. That's where I built that in New York City. So I'm actually taking the shortest route to get from that point of presence onto the AWS backbone, where it's then I have the connection into my US East 1 workloads. And I give it a friendly name, AWS. And let's say I only need 10 megs to get there. Okay. So now I'm going to set up that connection into my AWS account, and I need to give it that account number I copied. And then I'm going to identify I'm going to use a private ASN to stand that up with. If you leave these blank, notice there's no red asterisk here, so they're not required. Via APIs and the exchange of information between Megaport and AWS will assign those IPs and the authentication key. And then I'd be able to come back to the VXC afterwards and be able to see what they've assigned. So then I can configure my router appropriately. So I'm going to add that VXC and then go ahead and order that. Okay. So that's deploying right now. If I navigate back to my port there in New York, now I can see that it's deploying that TGIF AWS connection. Okay. And then if I go back to my AWS account, I can certainly follow along and watch as my hosted VIP starts getting created over there. Okay. All happens via APIs between Megaport and AWS and different cloud service providers. The one thing I did want to point out is I should be able to come back over this VXC and now see it at 1 gig, right? Because remember, I upgraded that bandwidth. Now what I did is created that path to get from Amsterdam to New York City over to the US East 1 workload. But all the routing is handled in this instance within CPE that is within those facilities. Now let's go back and kind of think about what would this look like for cloud to cloud only, right? Let's say you don't want to do BGP, or you have some antiquated equipment and you don't really want to maintain that anymore. You can use virtualized appliances from Megaport. So a Megaport cloud router is what's kind of shown here. Notice that I replaced those ports with a cloud router. I can do that in the Megaport portal in the same fashion by choosing the location. The location that I initially chose was ports only. So I would navigate to one that actually has MCR capabilities. So there's a nice filter here that I can filter those out. And I can start drilling down into one of those locations that has the MCR capability. So for instance, Digital Realty at NYC3, and I can create that cloud router. Okay. I can go through a really quick workflow. I'm going to choose the size of my cloud router of 1 gig. And let's see, TGI Friday and MCR. Okay. I'm going to subscribe to that for a month. It gives the default autonomous system number of Megaport, and I'm going to actually have BGP default state be enabled. And I can add an MCR. I can order it, and it deploys that on the Megaport compute in that facility there. Then I'd go through the same motions that I did to stand up that long haul VXC, just connecting it from one MCR to that port in Amsterdam, or I can build another MCR in Amsterdam. Now you have cloud routing at the on-ramps for these cloud services. So pretty powerful in the respect that you can do this all within a matter of minutes. Let's see, I've been on this call 20 minutes now and done a lot of different things. I don't necessarily see any other questions in the queue here. Let's see, Christine, I don't know if you see anything, any questions coming in from other means, but again, any Megaport questions in general, anything about what I've showed you how to build here today? All right, no questions on coming in from LinkedIn, so that's quite all right. And here, just what I'll kind of leave you with is, from a holistic point of view, global WAN is a service in a matter of minutes, right? Again, connecting a long haul VXC. Okay, here it shows that all those different use cases of site to site, site to cloud to cloud, etc. All right. Again, my name is Dustin McCumber with Megaport. I'm from the Megaport North American Solutions Architecture team. We are doing these drop-ins every Friday. We like to try to keep them short and sweet like this and trying to drive for some technical discussions. Feel free to reach out if you just want to run through some scenarios and just have one-on-one conversation with me directly or somebody else from the team. And know that this has taken place, these drop-ins are taking place across our 3 regions of Asia Pac, Europe, and North America. And I look forward to talking to you again next week on Friday. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Stay dry if you're in Colorado. Take care.